YouTube, what's going on, man? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Benchwarmers podcast. I'm your host, Tanner, followed by my co host, Caleb. We have a lot to talk about on the books today, but first, we're going to start off with the big news that we heard just a couple days ago. Caleb, the Aaron Donald retirement after 10 seasons. He spent all 10 with the Rams. How do you feel?
That's so sad. Greatest defensive player I've ever been able to watch in my lifetime. It's it's sad to see him go, but he accomplished everything he needed to in his career.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I mean that's one thing that I was going to talk about is for the last couple of seasons, everybody was talking about how Aaron Donald might end up going to a different team. Aaron Donald wants to go play somewhere else. I think Aaron Donald has pretty much accomplished all he could accomplish, and he did every bit of that with the Rams. So throughout his career, he had 111 sacks, 24 forced fumbles, and then arguably, I think his most dominant years were from 2017 to 2021. During that period, he had 76 sacks, 19 forced fumbles, and that was all in a span of 5 seasons. Not to mention the Rams ended up going to the Super Bowl during that 5 seasons and winning it. I think for Aaron Donald, I don't think you could ask for a better career. And I mean, I would have to agree with you. That is probably the most outstanding defensive player I ended up watching in my lifetime.
I think he's in that conversation as being greatest defensive player of all time.
Yeah,
He's up there with LT as greatest player of all time. Definitely the best I have ever seen.
yeah. I mean, this is something to where Aaron Donald is for sure probably going to be, not even probably, he is for sure going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
First ballot Hall of Famer. It's I hope he enjoys his retirement. It's definitely earned. Um, Sad to see a player like him go though.
I mean, sad for us, but I mean, I'm sure it's
Yeah.
not sad for the NFL quarterbacks who was getting dominated by him.
Ooh. I I can assure you, they are thrilled right now.
All right, so moving on, man. Let's talk trades. Let's talk pickups, everything like that. First on the books today, we have Austin Ekeler of the Commanders. He has a 2-year deal, worth 11.43 million. 4.2 of that is guaranteed. I mean, he played 14 games in 2023, had 628 rush yards, 5 touchdowns, 436 reception yards with 1 touchdown. So that's a total of 6 total touchdowns in 2023, all throughout 14 games. I think Austin Eckler to the Commanders, I think that is a huge pickup for the Commanders. I do think that the Commanders have made great offseason moves. I think the Commanders are a team that, if they choose the right quarterback in the draft, they're a team that you need to worry about and a team that could be on definitely on the rise.
Yeah, Commanders, Austin Ekeler going to them. It's amazing to pair with Antonio Gibson and then Brian Robinson as well. Um, Austin Ekeler, I don't think he's that same player he was previously for Chargers. I think he's lost his speed a little bit. He's not going to break away for 80-yard touchdowns anymore, but he's still reliable. He's still consistent. He's still amazing out of the backfield.
Yeah,
Uh, Commanders, it's a big pickup for them, especially for whatever quarterback they get.
yeah,
It's going to be a
absolutely.
huge help.
So I think the biggest thing for Austin Eckler is how healthy is he going to stay? He missed some games in 2020, he missed some games in 2023. But if we're talking about throughout his entire career, let's take a look at it. Throughout his entire career in 7 seasons, he had 69 total touchdowns. I mean, that is absolutely insane for a running back.
Yeah,
I mean, and I think that is the piece that the Commanders need. They need that red zone threat. They need somebody who's going to be able to push that ball into the end zone past the goal line. So I mean, that's absolutely what the Commanders need. They need somebody who's going to get them points. And I do feel like if Austin Eckler can kind of go back to his former self, from the 21-22 seasons and beyond that, I think Austin Eckler could be a great addition to that offense.
yeah, for sure. Austin Eckler. Uh, I think everyone knows his biggest value is out of the catching out of the backfield.
Yeah.
He's probably the best, arguably the best receiving running back behind Christian McCaffrey in the NFL. So, for sure you're at least going to benefit that
Yeah.
with that.
So also let's talk about the Commanders because obviously we've been through about a week and a half of the free agency and trades and everything like that. I feel like the Commanders are on the top of my list, man, for rating wise. The Commanders have now added Austin Eckler. They added Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, Dante Fowler, which with the Falcons, I seen everything he could produce. I mean, I don't think that is an A+ signing, but I think that is a great depth addition. They signed Frankie Louvu and also Jeremy Chin from the Panthers, and I feel like those are pieces the Panthers shouldn't have let walk.
Not
discussing the Panthers, I mean, I feel like the Panthers have made good moves offensively, but I feel like the moves that they have made offensively, they have taken two steps back defensively. So I mean, it's really it's going to be kind of crazy to see what the Panthers end up doing this season. I personally think they are making the wrong moves, but I mean, hey, we'll see what the 2024 season has to have.
going back to the Commanders. The free agency, it's one of the top for any team so far. They especially for the defense side of all.
Yeah,
Bobby Wagner, he's up there in age, but it's still a huge addition. Jeremy Chin is a young, huge addition. Frankie Louvu is a young, huge addition. Uh, that and then now they have Dan Quinn at head coach,
right.
who is a defensive-minded coach who was excelled as defensive coordinator in Dallas.
Yeah.
Um, I think he's going to know what to do with them players and how to use them correctly on that defense, and that defense is going to be amazing this year.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that Dan Quinn was a part of that Legion of Boom, and back in Seattle when they went back to back Super Bowls. Bobby Wagner is now joining that Commanders defense as a part of somewhat of that Legion of Boom, and he has that experience that he can bring to those young people like Frankie Louva and Jeremy Chin, and I think that's a great addition. I wasn't happy with Dan Quinn and how he ended up with the Falcons, but I'm all for that. If Dan Quinn can go out and succeed on his own, I mean, I would love to see it, and I think he's in a great chance because personally, I don't think he was in the best fit, when he was with Atlanta on defense. I think that now he is building the defense that he wants to have with the Washington Commanders, and I think that is something that we're going to see this year.
Yeah, for sure. And then going back to the quarterback they're going to take, I personally think it's going to be Drake May. And it's going to be fun to watch Drake May back there paired with Austin Eckler, paired with Terry McLaurin, and see what they can really do.
Yeah,
It could be Jaden Daniels though, but I'm thinking Drake May.
man, I'm telling you, like that's something that we actually have on the notes to discuss in a little bit. Is who the Washington Commanders end up taking. We'll save that topic for a little bit later, but just to kind of hand it out a little bit, the Chicago Bears are a very unique team. You don't know what they're going to do. We definitely did not see them, trading Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, especially for what they ended up getting out of it. So when we say, okay, Caleb Williams is for sure going number one to the Chicago Bears, we don't even know that. I don't even know if Chicago Bears know that at this moment. So, but I mean, that's something that we'll say for a little bit later in the podcast. All right, so we're going to move on right now to Keenan Allen to the Chicago Bears for the 2024 fourth round pick. Keenan Allen is a six-time Pro Bowler with five straight from 2017 to 2021, and his last Pro Bowl came from last season when he only had 13 games. He played in 13 games, had 108 receptions, 1,243 yards with seven touchdowns, and he's been the only receiver, well, not the only receiver, but he's been one of the receivers with 100 catches in five of his last seven seasons. And one of those seasons out of the last seven, he finished with 97. And I mean, with Keenan Allen being 31, spending 11 years with the Chargers, I think Keenan Allen is possibly still elite. And I think that's something that we're going to be able to find out with the Chicago Bears and see what they can do. And it really depends on who they take at quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. Chicago Bears, I definitely think they're going to take Caleb Williams. I don't see obviously the Bears they're unpredictable, so you
Yeah,
don't know who they're going to take, but I don't see why or how they could take anyone other than Caleb Williams.
yeah.
He is an amazing prospect. Any team would love to have him. Um, I think they are going to take Caleb Williams. And I think they've made a lot of good additions in this offseason, including this Keenan Allen trade.
Yeah,
Um, he's a very good receiver. He's getting older, but as you can tell by the stats he just read you, Keenan Allen is not declining.
no,
It's just as good as he always has been. Keenan Allen is an amazing receiver, and to get someone like that with the fourth round pick is amazing. The only downside to it is Chicago does not have a lot of picks remaining in this draft.
all right.
But Keenan Allen for a fourth round pick is still amazing value. And I think that Keenan Allen, whatever quarterback they do end up going with, Keenan Allen is going to be such a huge, huge addition for that player and helping them succeed.
I mean, I agree. It's something to where I don't really fully understand the Chargers, but somewhat I do. With him turning 31 years old, the contract that he possibly wanted from the Chargers, we don't know. I mean, that's something that him and his agent talked about with the team, but the fact that him being 31 years old and he's still putting up those numbers, I don't really understand why the Chargers will want to let somebody go like that. I feel like they probably should have tried to negotiate the contract a little bit more with him, but maybe at the end of the day, Keenan Allen knew his worth and he didn't want to do that. But I do feel like the Chargers are in a pretty good position, even moving on from him. Is this draft that's coming up? It's a very wide receiver heavy draft. I mean, you could still find diamonds pretty much in round two and possibly even round three. So I don't think the Chargers have to worry about that. I definitely feel like they're going to be able to find a replacement. But the question is that replacement going to be able to live up to Keenan Allen?
The Chargers, what makes it questionable for me is the fact they also released Mike Williams.
Yeah,
So now the only good receiver they have on their roster is Quentin Johnson, and I personally think he's the worst receiver taken in the first round from last year.
yeah.
I think Zay Flowers, uh, I'm blanking on all the other people, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I think those are all better players than Quentin Johnson. I don't think he's a first round talent, and I don't know, and I don't. I could understand if Chargers getting rid of Keenan Allen or Mike Williams.
Mm.
I don't understand why they would get rid of both.
Yeah, and I mean, and it probably goes back to the situation that I was just explaining. I mean, this draft is so heavy with wide receivers, but I mean, you can almost guarantee you already know who the Chargers are probably taking round one, round two, and probably even more rounds than that.
The Chargers, one thing I would love to see is I'd love to see Brock Bowers go into them.
Okay.
Uh, Tight end, I would
Yeah.
love it. They need more positions. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not,
Yeah.
but I would love to see Brock Bowers go to the Chargers, and I think that would be a huge addition for Justin Herbert
Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
help soften the blow of losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, even though Mike Williams is still potential going back. But
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, and I definitely think that Brock Bowers is making a great impact to that team, and especially if maybe you even add a teammate like of his to McConkey. I definitely think the Chargers could be somebody that would be feared, but until they discuss that wide receiver position, I don't think that they're going to be in talks of any playoff runs anytime soon. And unfortunately, I mean, I feel like they need to do more to help Justin Herbert.
yeah, for sure, they need Justin Herbert is an amazing quarterback. Any team would have loved to have him.
Yeah,
They're just not putting Justin Herbert in positions to succeed.
yeah.
He's getting it's just I don't know what LA's got going on.
All right, moving on, man. We're going to talk about Tony Pollard to the Titans. He signed a 3-year, $24 million deal. 10.49 of that is guaranteed. So in 2023, he had 252 carries for 1,005 yards rushing and 55 receptions with 311 yards. That's going to bring his all-purpose yards up to 1,316. I don't think that is a bad season, and the fact that the Cowboys let him go, I mean, I think that is kind of questionable, especially because I mean, I feel like that was probably Tony Pollard's worst season, but at the same time, I mean, if you have a running back that's putting up those kind of numbers, you don't let that running back walk. So the fact that they allowed him to, leave to go to the Titans, I think that is insane. I mean, obviously, I want to say obviously the Cowboys know what they're doing, but they haven't even really made any free agency moves. I mean, the Cowboys have been completely quiet. I don't know what the Cowboys have going on. I mean, they let Tyron Smith walk, which is what we're going to talk about in a little bit. They're letting Tony Pollard leave. They let Ezekiel Elliott leave last year. I mean, I don't think that the Cowboys are going to be the same Cowboys this upcoming year that we've seen all the other years with Dak Prescott.
No, the Cowboys, it's very questionable why they let Tony Pollard walk. Pollard is a very good running back who I think everyone thought they just assumed Pollard would be returning to Dallas.
Yeah,
Um, Pollard goes to Tennessee, which is going to help Tennessee tremendous with the replacement of Derrick Henry, which I
agreed.
don't, Pollard's not as good, but it's going to help soften the blow of losing Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
Um, Pollard isn't as as good as a running back as you can really hope for in the NFL. When you draft somebody, you hope they can be as good as Tony Pollard.
yeah.
Pollard is an amazing running back.
Now, what I will say, kind of going back to the Derrick Henry that you were just mentioning, by no means do I think Tony Pollard has the strength and the agility, or excuse me, the strength of Derrick Henry, but Tony Pollard has agility, and Tony Pollard is going to be a great receiving back, and I feel like that's where Derrick Henry lacked. Can Derrick Henry catch passes? Sure, but that's not what Derrick Henry was put into the NFL for. Derrick Henry was put into the NFL to run people over. He was put into the NFL to where you're on that 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, hell, even 4th and 1. He's getting you that 1 yard. But I think that's going to be the difference with Tony Pollard is when you're put in those situations, okay, They may not think that Tony Pollard is going to run you over for that 4th and 1, but who knows? He might run to the outside. He's going to catch a catch on you, and now he's running down the field, and that's not what you're expecting. And I think that's the difference that they needed outside of Derrick Henry. Is Derrick Henry wasn't able to do that. Now, granted, did he have times where he was doing that? Sure, but Tony Pollard is a more versatile back, and I think in the long run, Tony Pollard is going to end up doing better for them.
Pollard's also the younger option.
Right.
Derrick Henry's, if he's not 30, he's close to 30. Um, Pollard's a much younger quarterback who obviously they signed him to 3 years, so they view him as somewhat the long-term answer.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a very good signing for Tennessee. But going back to the Dallas, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're letting everybody walk. They're releasing people. They released Michael Gallup and Leighton Vander Esch, who actually just retired.
Yeah.
Um, they're letting everybody walk, and I understand they got to pay guys like Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. They got to pay guys on their defense, but once again, you cannot lose your offense to keep your defense. You have to have both sides of the ball being good, not one side.
Absolutely. And I think we're in an era now to where, back maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe even a little bit before then, defense wins championships. But there was something I seen on Twitter, not too long ago. I think it was in the last couple of days to where, excuse me, and I don't have the exact stats, but if you look at the last 14 years of championship games, I want to say maybe 10 or 11 out of those 14 years was an offensive team that actually made it to the championship game, possibly even made it to the Super Bowl. We're no longer in an era of defense rules. Do you need a defense? Absolutely, but you need an average defense. Now you need a top 10 offense to make it to the Super Bowl.
Is you specifically you need an elite quarterback to win the
Absolutely.
Super Bowls.
Yeah.
You need that I think that's what's then Dallas. I think the only move they have made that I can really think of is Eric Kendricks. They signed for a linebacker.
Yeah.
Other than that, they haven't signed anybody. I know they already have like Tyron Smith. They already have the replacement on the roster, but I mean, what are you gonna do about Tony Pollard?
Yeah.
Deuce Vaughn? You think he's the answer? I don't think he's the. I don't think Deuce Vaughn's the guy. I mean, he's 5'4". I mean, I could flick him and he'll fall down.
Yeah,
So
man.
I mean, I'm not. I like Deuce Vaughn, but he's not the guy. He's not
No.
the workhorse running back in Dallas.
No, not
Um,
at all. I don't know what Dallas has going on, man. And like I said, they've been very quiet for. I don't really understand what Dallas plans on doing. I understand you're probably setting yourself up for a good draft, but you need more than just a good draft. You need some free agents. You need great trades. You need some good signings. You need more than just hoping you can find your guy in the draft because that doesn't always pan out. I mean, let's look at draft picks over the years. You know what I mean? Like some people, they let's just say for example the 1 through 7 round, you can draft 7 people and maybe only 2 or 3 of those end up being in the league in 5 years. I don't think Dallas is making the right moves, and I think they're probably going to end up regretting it in 2024.
I think they are too. I think losing Tony Pollard, Leighton Vander Esch, Tyron Smith, even though Tyron Smith hasn't stayed healthy recently, they're going to feel it.
Yeah,
Dak Prescott, it's going to affect him more than people think. I don't know what Dallas is really thinking.
yeah. All right, so moving on from Tony Pollard, Dallas and Titans, let's talk about Josh Jacobs to Green Bay. So before we talk about Josh Jacobs to Green Bay, let's talk about when Josh Jacobs was signed to Green Bay. Green Bay fans were going nuts. They thought that they had a backfield of Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones. They thought they were about to dominate the league. Couple hours later, maybe even a day later, I don't know exactly. Aaron Jones ends up
Hours.
getting hours. Okay, thank you. Hours later, Aaron Jones ends up getting traded to the Vikings, which we're going to talk about next. But Josh Jacobs signed to the Green Bay Packers for a $48 million contract with 12.5 of it guaranteed. He only played 13 games in 2023, but he had 233 carries for 805 yards, 6 touchdowns, and he had 37 receptions for 296 yards with no reception touchdowns. But in 2022, when he played a full season, he had 1,653 rushing yards with 12 touchdowns, and that was with the Raiders. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be a great addition to that Green Bay offense. I think what we obviously witnessed Green Bay do last year in the playoffs, I think adding Josh Jacobs probably could even help them get to that NFC Championship game, maybe even to the Super Bowl. I think Josh Jacobs is a great addition, and I think the fact that they let Aaron Jones walk, it sucks for Green Bay. It really does. But if you had to choose one, I'm choosing Josh Jacobs.
You're going with Josh
I'm going
Jacobs.
with Josh Jacobs, man.
I think I would rather have Aaron Jones, especially with how he played it towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
With I think he was a big part of that playoff run that they made and helping Jordan Love look good and going on that playoff run.
Yeah.
Um, Josh Jacobs is definitely an amazing player. Especially with the 2022 season when he had 1,600 rushing yards.
Hmm.
That's amazing. Josh Jacobs is an amazing player, and I don't even really put this past year, 2023, on him because that Raiders team was just in shambles the whole season.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to put
That's
the blame
putting
on
it
him.
nicely.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't want to put the blame on him for that. I think he's a very good running back. I think Aaron Jones screamed Packers to me. When you thought of the Packers, I thought about 2 people, Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones.
Agreed. And that's the
Um,
situation, man, is the fact that Aaron Jones was there for so long, and Aaron Jones, he bleeds green and gold, but at the same time, it's a situation where sometimes you have to move on from that. You have to bring in younger prospects that could possibly have a better future.
I mean, yeah, it's possible. Josh Jacobs might be better long term. Um, I just think Aaron Jones, he's been so productive there for so long.
Yeah.
I don't know why you move on from him. And then if you want to bring in Josh Jacobs, make it the a 1-2 duo, that would have been amazing. I don't know who could have stopped that. No one could have stopped that duo back there.
Yeah.
Um, so I understand. If I was a Packers fan, I don't even gonna say I wouldn't. I'd be mad because you brought in a replacement
Yeah.
who's just as good, if not better. So you did You're not going to be struggling at that position,
Yeah.
but you lost someone who I think would have probably ended up retiring a Packer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I definitely feel the same way. I feel like if Aaron Jones stayed in Green Bay for probably another season, 2 seasons, he probably would have retired a Packer. I think now the fact that he's going to the Vikings, we really get to see revamp Aaron Jones. I feel like he's going to play with a lot more heart. He's going to play with a lot more, I guess the best word to put it, he's going to play with a lot more heart. I feel like Aaron Jones is now that he's going to a new home, a new setting. He's really going to try to show the fans what he has because I felt like sometimes when players stay with a team for so long, they kind of get complacent. Obviously, they're in the NFL; they want to try to do the best they can, but they know in the long run, if they're a fan favorite, they're loved already. It doesn't matter what they do. Besides, outside of a horrendous season, they're going to be loved regardless.
I think Vikings also needed that running back in Aaron Jones.
Yeah,
Last year they tried to run it with Alexander Madison, and he was not the guy.
yeah,
Um, Last year you could definitely tell they lost Dalvin Cook.
hmm
Um, they felt it, and Dalvin Cook's not the same player he was. But you definitely feel the loss at that running back position for Vikings. So for them to get Aaron Jones when you didn't even expect him to be a free agent is huge.
yeah.
Um,
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it's amazing signing for the Vikings, and I don't think it's I understand why Packers did it.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at them. I just wish they would have kept Aaron Jones.
And I agree, but that's something that I was actually about to touch on. I mean, we both have seen it numerous times in the NFL, and 1-2 duos they don't last. They might have a both 1-2 duo one good year, but after that one good year, whoever that number two is, they don't want to stick around. They want to go somewhere else. They want to be a number one. They want to be in the spotlight. They want to make the money. They no longer want to be that sidekick to whoever number one is. And I feel like the best thing that we can really think of, at least for me, is back when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl in 2016 when they had Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. I felt like that was probably one of the best duos in Falcons history. And you've seen just how quick that went down the hill. And I mean, even for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they had Najee Harris and, their backup. I feel like there's a lot of NFL teams that want to have that 1-2 duo, but it comes down to that the number two, they don't want to be that duo. They want to be a number one.
Yeah, for sure. And Jalen Warren is the backup you were trying to
There
think
you
of.
go. There you go. Thank you.
But Najee and Jalen Warren, obviously, if Jalen Warren keeps playing the way he does, Jalen Warren is going to get paid like a number one by someone else.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. And then we also have, the Nick Chubb Kareem Hunt duo
Agreed.
that dominated a couple years. But every year it felt like Kareem Hunt was holding back or holding out, trying to get more money to
Yeah.
be paid like a number one when he was really the number two.
Yeah.
So the duos like that, it really only works when you have someone on a rookie contract.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing that they kind of understood with, Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones. They understood that, even if they could talk them both into staying with Green Bay, that wasn't going to be a long term answer. And I felt like Green Bay, with how Jordan Love played last year, they're looking for long term answers. They don't want to go short term.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan Love, especially in the playoffs, just
Man,
phenomenal.
yeah, absolutely. He balled out. I didn't expect that out of Jordan Love. I mean, obviously, we kind of witnessed it throughout the season. Um, but once Jordan Love hit the playoffs, it kind of reminded me of Aaron Rodgers and all of the great quarterbacks from the past. Even like when Tom Brady would have bad seasons, it was like once the playoffs came and it was the wild card or divisional round, they were entirely different. Like they knew what was at stake, they knew what was on the line, and I felt like I seen that out of Jordan Love. I mean, granted that when they lost, I don't think you could have put that on Jordan Love. I think that was a team loss, and unfortunately, it was a heartbreaking loss because that was a close game. You know what I mean? All right, so moving on to Aaron Jones to the Vikings. We were just talking about that. He has a 1 year, $7 million deal. So in 2023, he played 11 games. He had 142 carries, 656 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 30 receptions, 233 yards, of 1 touchdown. But that was off of 11 games. Let's talk about his 2022 stats. He had 213 carries with 1,121 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he had 59 receptions for 395 yards, 5 touchdowns. So that's going to put him at 7 total touchdowns on the season. So just to kind of talk about what we were already just talking about with Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, I think that is a wonderful signing for the Vikings. I think that they are now trying to look for their QB of the future, being that they just got rid of Kirk Cousins, and I think they're going to try to find that in the draft, possibly even move up, whatever they plan on doing. I think if they can find a great quarterback that is going to pair well with the Minnesota, I think that they could be definitely a team you need to look out for, especially with Aaron Jones in the backfield.
Well, the Vikings just did trade up. They moved from their second round pick to the 23rd overall pick from Houston.
But correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they still do have a number 11 pick. So that's
Yes,
if
they
they
do.
try to that's if they try to move down from that number 11 pick, because obviously we haven't really started discussing draft yet. That'll be something that comes in the next few weeks. But how likely is it that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be able to move from number 11 down to any closer? And being that I think there's maybe only three, possibly even four good quarterbacks in this draft.
I personally think they might stay put and take JJ McCarthy.
You think JJ McCarthy is going to fall to number 11 though?
I do. I think he will fall to number 11,
Okay.
unless there's another team who, which from what I've seen, a lot of teams love JJ McCarthy right
Yeah.
now. Even teams that have their franchise quarterback, the scouts are still saying that JJ McCarthy looks amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so I definitely could see a team trading up for JJ McCarthy,
Hmm.
and I think Vikings could also trade up to ensure they get JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
They have 2 first round picks they can use to trade up with. They can get in multiple picks ahead to guarantee JJ McCarthy if they really want him.
Yeah. For sure.
It all comes down to who they want. They could also they could also not take JJ McCarthy. They could go with someone like Bo Nix or Michael Penix
Yeah.
with that 23rd pick. You that's a player you could probably get in the second round, but if you take him in the first, you get that 5th year option, which for quarterbacks is huge
Yeah.
because quarterbacks they like to get paid.
Yeah. So, and,
So
and I think personally, what they might end up doing, and then this could be my pre-draft prediction. I think the Minnesota Vikings might take both of those picks, depending on what happens on draft night. Because obviously, we can sit here, we can count 100 what if scenarios, but when draft night comes, that's when things really happen, and that's when things change. And sometimes, I mean, for example, last year we all thought Carolina Panthers were going to take C.J. Stroud, and then they end up taking Bryce Young on the first overall pick. So, I mean, it's a situation where we can discuss what ifs, but when draft night comes, it's going to be completely different. But I do believe that, Minnesota Vikings possibly traded up and they're going to use both of those first round picks to maybe even try to move down. They already have Aaron Jones in the backfield now, and then they are going to have Justin Jefferson out wide. I mean, and it doesn't look like Justin. I mean, obviously he's upset with the Kirk Cousins release, him being traded away. I understand Justin Jefferson being upset, but
Justin Jefferson to the Steelers.
man, come on, let's be honest. Justin Jefferson ain't going nowhere. I mean, he's upset because that's his teammate. We see the same thing happen every year. People get upset when their teammates are traded away, but at the end of the day, Justin Jefferson knows where he's going to get paid, and that's going to be with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I don't see Justin Jefferson going anywhere. But if he does want to go, the Pittsburgh Steelers is your best choice, Jettas. Come
Okay.
on.
Okay. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about DeAndre Swift to Chicago. Obviously, it was very weird, that Justin Fields got traded away. But like we talked about earlier, I mean, obviously they have their mindset on what they're doing with the number one overall pick. DeAndre Swift signed for a 3-year, $24 million deal. He has $14.3 million guaranteed. So his 2023 stats is he had 229 carries for 1,049 yards, 5 touchdowns, and he had 39 receptions for 214 yards, 1 touchdown, which is going to put him at 6 total touchdowns on the season. I think DeAndre Swift leaving the Eagles to go to the Chicago Bears was a little questionable on his part because I feel like, if you're playing for a championship, I don't think Chicago Bears is the choice you should have went to. That's my opinion. But I mean, as we can see, Philadelphia Eagles had a falling off last year. Now, where they could put that blame, I mean, who knows? Obviously, a lot of people are going to point the finger, at Jalen Hurts. They're going to point the finger at the coaching. They're going to point the finger, any and every direction. But I do believe that Philadelphia Eagles, if they were to, fix the mistakes that they had last year, that they could have had a deep playoff run. I feel like they kind of collapsed in the playoffs, and I feel like that really is what hurt them. And I don't feel, or I do feel that that late season collapse is really what caused that playoff collapse. Is they went into the playoffs with no confidence, and I feel like that really hurts a team. Is you need confidence in the NFL. If you don't have confidence, you're not winning anything.
I think Chicago is they're in that rebuild phase. So I understand why they went out and got DeAndre Swift. You don't gotta worry about the running back position for a couple years. DeAndre Swift is a good running back.
Yeah,
I do think Philadelphia helped him look a little bit better than what he really is, just because being behind such a good offensive line,
yeah,
which Chicago does not have. Um, so I think, when you go back and look at what DeAndre Swift from Lions, he's always been a good player. Um, he is not elite running back, so I see why Philly moved on and went for Saquon to get a better running back.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
Chicago, I think the DeAndre Swift signing isn't it's not bad. It's not a
Yeah,
bad signing. I understand why they did it. I think DeAndre Swift is a good player and will be very good for them.
yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's a bad signing for either team. I mean, I understand why, Philly would want to move on and move to Saquon Barkley because, I mean, just being honest with you, if I had a choice, I'm taking Saquon Barkley over DeAndre Swift as well.
Every
I
time.
I do understand why Chicago Bears wanted DeAndre Swift, but if I'm DeAndre Swift, me personally, that's not where I want to go. At this point in my career, I want to play for a championship, and me personally, I don't see Chicago Bears being that team right now. Could they possibly be that team in 2 or 3 years? Maybe, but you're taking a chance on, are you going to be that team where in Philadelphia you are that team? You just have to hit those numbers to be able to move deeper into the playoffs. So I mean, we'll see what Chicago Bears do, but I do feel like that Chicago Bears are a lot better team than they were in 2023, and I think they're making improvements. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be fun to watch Chicago and what they can do.
Yeah. So moving on, I'm sure something that you obviously love. We're going to talk about Justin Fields to Pittsburgh, and it's not just the fact that it's Justin Fields to Pittsburgh. It's the fact that it's Justin Fields to Pittsburgh for a sixth round pick that is possibly a fourth round depending on playtime, and which is pretty much guaranteed. Well, I don't want to say guaranteed because obviously in the world of NFL nothing is guaranteed, but Mike Tomlin has already came out, and we've seen everything on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days. Mike Tomlin has already reached out to Russell Wilson and let him know that he's the starter. He's running with him until the pretty much the wheels fall off. So as long as Russell Wilson is producing and he stays healthy, that Justin Fields pick is staying as a 6th round pick, and to get Justin Fields at a 6th round pick is incredible. I think that the Steelers have absolutely robbed Chicago Bears. And this is not the first time that the Steelers have robbed Chicago Bears. So at some point, somebody needs to do something.
And all I gotta say is our GM, Omar, I trust him with my whole life.
I
He
can
is
completely understand.
the Bears passed up on him a couple years ago to make him their GM. He's getting them back now.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
um, first I want to talk about Russell Wilson being the starter. That's Mr. Unlimited, man. I'm excited to watch Russell, but Justin Fields, he's the future in
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. That's what we traded for him. He's sitting behind Russell for a year, maybe even 2 years, depending on how Russell does this season. Um, and learn and develop under him, and then take over as that starter. Um, learn to clean up those turnovers, the fumbles, the interceptions. Learn to quit playing Superman. Every single play, you don't have to get a touchdown every play.
yeah,
Um, you don't have to be the man. You can throw the ball away. Sometimes you have to. Justin Fields need to clean some things up, and I think the Steelers with the coaches we have, as well as Russell Wilson being the mentor he is, I think it's going to be amazing for him. Um, this from what I've been seeing is Chicago had multiple offers from other teams, but Justin Fields requested to go get traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
So Justin Fields wants to be there. And Mike Tomlin always says, "We want volunteers. We're not forcing no one to be here. We want volunteers."
Yeah.
So Justin Fields wants to be in Pittsburgh. He wants to sit behind Russell Wilson and learn from Russell Wilson and become a better player. It's exciting to watch. Um, I definitely think we robbed Chicago of that sixth round pick.
100%.
Next year's sixth round pick on top of that.
Yeah,
A
100%.
2025 sixth round pick. Um, and I I can almost guarantee that it's not gonna be the 4th round pick. Obviously, like you said, nothing's guaranteed in the NFL, but Russell Wilson will be the starter. And let's I pray this doesn't happen, but as long as Russell Wilson doesn't sustain any injuries and is healthy for the whole year, I believe he will play good enough to keep that starting for the whole year.
Completely agree.
Um, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields is I'm so happy with that QB room compared to last year where it was Trubisky,
Oh
Pickett,
man.
and Rudolph.
Oh
It's
man.
so much better. It's so much more exciting.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Which is what we're just about to talk about here in a few minutes is Kenny Pickett. But first, we're going to go back to Justin Fields. So in 2023, he played in 13 games. He had a 227 completions on 370 attempts. That's a 61.4% completion rate. He had 2,562 yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He had excuse me, says 4 carries. I don't know why I put 4 carries. He definitely did not have 4 carries for 657 yards and 4 touchdowns. 657 yards rushing is insane for a quarterback. 4 touchdowns is obviously really good. I do think that 2,562 passing yards is really good for a quarterback. Are you on that elite level? Definitely not. But you are going out there showing that you could, in Pittsburgh's situation, be a great backup. And if he learns from Russell Wilson, he could definitely even move on to a better situation and take over Pittsburgh and possibly be QB1 for the next future.
He will be QB1 in the future. I have so much I have so much faith in Justin Fields becoming the future for the Pittsburgh organization. Now going back to the stats. Justin Fields, the one thing I did see from him is he was hot and cold.
Yeah,
He had games where I think he played amazing, couldn't have done better. And then he had games where he turned the ball over a lot and
yeah,
didn't play that great. The consistency is what we need to work on. We need to work on the consistency as well as obviously the turnovers.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, everyone knows him rushing. I mean, he's like a running back at quarterback.
Yeah, agreed.
Lamar 2.0. Rushing the ball, he's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the passing too. We need to work on a little bit.
But at the
Um,
same time, how much of that can we really blame on Justin Fields? I mean, the only receiver that Chicago gave him was DJ Moore. And I by no means think DJ Moore is an elite receiver. Is DJ Moore good? Yes. Is DJ Moore great? Possibly, but definitely not elite. So, I mean, it would have been good to see what Justin Fields could have produced with maybe a better receiving core because I felt like he didn't get that in Chicago.
Now, and I think Justin Fields is going to. I think he's going to be good. Good. I think he's going to be good for a very long time. I think he has a future in the NFL. I think he could win MVP. I think he has that
Really?
potential. I think
Okay.
he
All
has
right.
potential to be an MVP, potential to win Super Bowls. And I think Steelers is the best position for him to be to do that. I
All
think it's
right.
a
All
very good.
right. All right. Let's be honest now. I'm gonna stop you at the MVP. Justin
You
Fields,
don't
nah.
you
Justin
don't
Fields
think
wins
Justin
it.
Fields has MVP potential?
MVP potential, yes, but
That's what I'm saying.
okay. Well, I mean,
What
maybe.
I'm not predicting MVP next season or
Nah,
nothing.
definitely not next season. But Justin Fields. I mean, it would really depend on what we see in Pittsburgh when he does become the starter. I mean, because what we've seen in Chicago, I don't see an MVP out of him. Depending on what he does in Pittsburgh, that could be the difference. Now, by no means am I downplaying Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is a great quarterback. But Justin Fields possibly being an MVP, I can't make that call right now. I mean, obviously, Steelers is your team, and you got to have confidence, and you got to have that. I mean, I'm all for it, man. If Justin Fields can go to Pittsburgh Steelers and win an MVP, because we know he's not going to win a Super Bowl, so the MVP is about the MVP is about the only thing he can
Hold
do,
on,
right?
hold on. How many Super Bowls has Atlanta won?
All right, man. You weren't even alive the last time they won a Super Bowl.
Yes, I
Okay.
was.
All right. Look, man. What?
W-
2000? What? 11?
No, we beat the
Nine,
Cardinals.
nine,
Cardinals.
9 or 11.
It was I think it was 9. I think 11 was Green Bay where
Okay,
we lost.
okay. All right. So let's be realistic here. Um,
I'm
again,
being realistic. Pittsburgh Steelers can go to a Super Bowl and will go to a Super Bowl with Justin Fields at quarterback.
so you don't believe in Russell Wilson, is what you're telling me?
I do believe Russell Wilson, but I think Russell Wilson is really just a bridge quarterback until
Yeah,
Justin Fields starts.
agreed.
I don't think Russell is taking us to Super Bowl. I do want to see him take us to playoffs,
Yeah.
but Super Bowl, I'm not expecting that.
So my opinion is, as long as Mike Tomlin is in Pittsburgh, you guys are going pretty much to the playoffs. You guys are going to have a winning season. We've seen that almost for the last 20 years with Mike Tomlin.
I think
We
it's 17.
Yeah. So I mean, Mike
Yeah,
Tomlin he's a great head coach. He's definitely going to go down as one of the greatest head coaches of all time, right up there with possibly even Belichick. I mean, he may not have the Super Bowl rings to show for it, but I think at the end, it is a team game. And, sometimes it always comes down to that front office. I mean, Mike Tomlin doesn't always control what happens. I mean, all he can do is go out there and make best of what he had. And I think we've seen that last year. I mean, we have a quarterback room of Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky. Like,
I'm about to say, can't forget
yeah,
Trubo.
yeah. So I mean, with that quarterback room and to produce a winning season, and I mean that's insane. I think all props to Mike Tomlin. He's definitely going to go down as one of the greatest. So
Yep,
moving on,
he's
moving on. We got Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles. I know you were kind of somewhat upset about that when it first happened, but then when you found out about the Justin Fields trade, I mean ecstatic about
that's exactly what it was. Kenny Pickett, I did not
it.
expect Kenny Pickett to come in as the backup at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
My prediction was going to be Russell Wilson sits behind Kenny Pickett, and ultimately, when Kenny Pickett proved he wasn't the guy, Russell Wilson was going to come in
yeah,
and become the starter. I'm glad we didn't just let that happen, and we went out and traded Kenny Pickett and got the third round pick for him. Um, I do think Kenny Pickett has potential to be a starter in this league. I think Justin Fields has a much higher ceiling and has much more potential than Kenny Pickett does.
yeah,
But I do think Kenny Pickett still has an opportunity and chance of being a starter in this league and being a good quarterback.
yeah,
It didn't work out in Pittsburgh for him. He has some things he needs to clean up. Um, I think he goes to Philly. He can sit a couple years, practice, work on it, um, and he might be good. I'm glad we moved on from him. I'm glad we were able to admit that we made a mistake drafting him and cut our losses and get a whole different QB room.
yeah.
Uh,
So I'll make a 2024 prediction right now. I think at some point during 2024, Jalen Hurts is going to go on his bad run again, and I think once he goes on that bad streak of losing games, I think Kenny Pickett is going to see the field. Do I think Kenny Pickett is going to take over for the Philadelphia Eagles? Probably not. But at the same time, it really depends on what Kenny Pickett applies and what Kenny Pickett learns while he's with the Philadelphia Eagles. Because I can tell you right now, if Kenny Pickett comes in and he plays like how Mason Rudolph did with Pittsburgh Steelers when he took over, we might be looking at QB1. Now, I mean, I'm sure a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans are not going to agree with that, but that's the truth of the matter. Is I do believe that there is some blame to put on Jalen Hurts for how they played last season.
yeah, for sure. Hurts didn't do his part, as I think a couple other players on offense didn't as well. Um, so you think Kenny Pickett will short term will come in and take the starting job from Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to say take the starting job, but I do believe that at some point, week 1 through 17, Jalen Hurts he's gonna be having a bad game, and I think that coaching and offensive coordinators they're tired of seeing it, especially after how they had that downfall last year. So I think they're going to throw Kenny Pickett in there. They're going to see if that fire's under his ass and he's going to go out there and produce, or is he going to be the Kenny Pickett that he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers? So I mean I guess that'll be a story for later on throughout the season. But I do believe that that's going to happen. I believe Kenny Pickett's going to come over and he's going to take over for Jalen Hurts either at the start of a game or throughout the game while Jalen's having his downfall.
I will say I do think it's sad the way Kenny Pickett went out with the Steelers organization. So he didn't leave in a good way.
Yeah,
he didn't want to be in Pittsburgh anymore. He wanted to leave.
Yeah.
So that's sad to see. Um, because I still had faith in Kenny Pickett. I still do. So it's sad to see the way he left. He was not a big fan of how Steelers handled the quarterback situation, but in my point of view, st- we needed to get better at the position, so we did
Yeah.
what we had to do.
I mean, and absolutely, I would 1000% agree that you guys have gotten better at the QB position. And I would argue that it's even better now that Kenny Pickett is gone. So, with that being said, let's go over his 2023 stats real quick. So, in 2023, he had 12 games. He had a 201 completions, 324 attempts, which is going to be a 62% completion rate. He had 2,070 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Now, let's talk about the previous season and let's talk about what Kenny Pickett has done since he's been with Pittsburgh. He has now had a 13 touchdown, 13 interception ratio. That is not good for 2 years in the NFL. I mean, that is, you're pretty much on way that if you continue playing like that throughout your next 2 or 3 years, you're not going to have a starting job. You may not even be in the NFL long term. So, I mean, we already see that he doesn't have a starting job. Now it's the fact to where are you going to be a viable enough backup to stay in the league?
Yeah, so here's Kenny Pickett. He did show improvement from his rookie year to his second year. That It wasn't enough. His improvement was he cut down the interceptions. He went
Yeah,
from 9 interceptions to 4 interceptions.
yeah,
He cut down the interceptions. The issue is he didn't increase the touchdowns with it.
yeah.
6 touchdowns is not good enough in the NFL. 6 passing touchdowns is not going to work. It's unacceptable.
Right.
You will not be a good team for only having 6 touchdowns for it was how many games did he play? 10, 12?
12 games. And let's
Yeah.
not forget that the Steelers offense, I mean, you know how I feel about the Steelers. We go back and forth with each other all the time. But on a real note, on a podcast, I will never be biased. And, the Steelers have a wonderful offense. I mean, they have the receivers to do it. They have Najee Harris, Jalen Warren in the backfield. They have all the numbers that they needed to, make it a deep playoff run. And all they were missing was that quarterback. And I think now that they have that quarterback, I mean, it's going to be scary to see what the Steelers can do in the AFC.
Yes, for sure. I do think we now after trading DeAndre Johnson, we do need another receiver.
Yeah,
Um, so I think receiver is now a need, as well as a couple people on the line. But I'm excited to see what our offense can do now.
absolutely. All right, so we're going to move on. We're going to talk really quickly because, I mean, on this podcast, I feel like it's very hard to talk about offensive linemen because it's not really stats that they can produce. I feel like offensive linemen are very underrated in the NFL because they're the people that are rarely ever talked about, but they are the people who will help you win playoff games and help you win Super Bowls. So we're going to talk about the Cowboys' decision to let Tyron Smith walk away, and he now has a 1 year, 6.5 million, all guaranteed to the New York Jets, and I feel like that is going to be a tremendous help for Aaron Rodgers. I do believe that Aaron Rodgers is an elite quarterback. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is an elite quarterback at this point of his career, though. So I do. It's going to be exciting to see what the New York Jets can, try to accomplish next year.
Obviously, last year was a disappointing year for the Jets, but it was because their star quarterback that they went out and traded for got hurt at the very beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, minutes into
So
the first game.
exactly. So it was sad season for them last year, but you can't take away from what they're going to do this year.
Yeah,
They have Aaron Rodgers back now, who looks to be pretty healthy. And now their tackle situation wasn't great, so they went out. They get their left tackle and a right tackle, which Tyron Smith, very good player when healthy. Issue is he doesn't stay healthy a whole lot.
yeah,
But when healthy, Tyron Smith is one of the better tackles in the league.
agreed.
So it's going to be exciting to see what he can do for the Jets as long as he can stay healthy and what Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to produce behind an offensive line that seems like it's going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I definitely think with Aaron Rodgers coming off, the Achilles injury, that's absolutely what he needs. He needs protection back there. Now, it's kind of hard to determine how that line would have held up throughout the season protecting Aaron Rodgers because, he went down within minutes of the first game. So it's kind of hard to determine that can you place that injury because he had a lackluster offensive line in front of him, or was it the fact that it was just a freak injury that happened and that's what happens in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Jets they're in a position they're in win now mode with the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
They won a Super Bowl and they want it right now. And I think they're doing what they need to do with the roster to make that happen.
All right, so next we're going to talk about what just happened today. We have Chase Young to the Saints on a 1 year deal. It's going to be 13 million. All of it's going to be guaranteed.
We
Obviously,
have we have different opinions on
we
this.
have very different opinions on this. So obviously, being in the NFC South, watching the Atlanta Falcons every game, and meeting the Saints twice a year, that it's going to be. I thought it was going to be a scary situation at first, for Kirk Cousins, but looking at it, I don't think so. I don't think Chase Young is that player that he was in 2020 when he won, Rookie of the Year or Defensive Player of the Year, whichever one it was. I
Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think Chase Young is that player. And the main thing that I would really like to point out is the fact that when we just went through the playoffs this past season in the NFC Championship game, where he was pretty much walking after Jameer Gibbs and pretty much let up a touchdown in the NFC Championship game. You don't do that. I feel like it's a lack of effort. I don't know what it is. I don't know why he feels that he can pretty much do whatever he wants to do on an NFL field. But I mean, the 49ers thought about benching him in the Super Bowl, not even allowing him to play. I mean, his lack of effort was that bad. So I mean, maybe the Saints organization might be able to pull that fire out of Chase Young and see if he can do anything. I personally don't think that it was a good deal for the Saints, but we'll see how that turns out. So in the 49ers, he had 9 games, 2.5 sacks. I mean, in 9 games, 2.5 sacks, and you're arguably trying to compete for the best rusher or defensive end in the league. I don't think you're up there. So I mean, I think this is a bad pickup for the New Orleans Saints.
I think it's a good pickup for the Saints.
Okay.
I think Chase Young, he's a former second overall pick, so he's got that talent in him somewhere. I think you just gotta find the right situation, the right team, and the right coaches that can bring that out of him.
Yeah.
Um, I think Saints, if they can do that, they found themselves a star pass rusher who has possibility of being the best pass rusher in the league. Um, and I think Chase Young, he has shown it in the NFL. It's not like he lost it. It's somewhere in him. He's shown in the NFL that he can play at a high level. He just got to get there. And I think the Saints, I think they have a good chance of bringing that out in them on the opposite side of Cam Jordan. And I'm excited to see what he does. I think this year is a big year on if he's going to be star or if he's going to be a bust. Um, and I don't think he wants to be a bust. Um, so I'm excited to see what he does with the Saints.
Yeah. I mean, now, granted, I am excited to see what he does. I mean, but my excitement is obviously not going to be fully there because I don't want him to have a breakout season. Because if he has a breakout season, that means he's probably going to be sacking Kirk Cousins and my Atlanta Falcons pretty much every time they meet, and I don't want to see that. But realistically, I just don't think that Chase Young has that willpower in him anymore. I don't know if maybe outside of football he's going through some personal issues or whatever the case may be, but I just don't think Chase Young is that guy anymore. I feel like he has lost his desire, and I feel like it's almost to a point to where we're kind of like a Vic Beasley situation. I feel like he maybe had that one good season, and who knows? In a couple of years from now, Chase Young might be playing the UFL.
I hope not. I like Chase Young, and I want to see him succeed.
Yeah. All right. So the last few topics that we have on the books for today is we're going to talk at least what we thought was the top three remaining free agents. So we have Justin Simmons, Mike Williams, and Odell Beckham Jr., which I still don't think Odell is an elite receiver, but I feel like Odell is a name, and I feel like you have to talk about Odell Beckham. So first, we're going to start off with Justin Simmons. So the four teams that I've really seen that have high interest on Justin Simmons, who possibly he would go to, was the Tennessee Titans, Washington Commanders, Green Bay, Cincinnati Bengals, and the Indianapolis Colts. Out of those teams, do you think he's going to go to any of those, or are you going to throw one out there that you possibly think he might go to?
I would like to see him go to the Green Bay Packers, personally. Replace Darnell Savage, who left and went somewhere else.
Yeah,
I think he'd be a good replacement for Darnell Savage. Justin Simmons is an elite safety. He's one of the best at the position. Um, whatever team gets him is it's going to be exciting.
yeah.
My personal prediction is Green Bay Packers.
I mean, I would have to agree. My thing is if you're wanting to win, and I'm sure Justin Simmons is wanting to win, you probably go to Green Bay, and you definitely want to try to stay out of the AFC because right now the AFC is stacked. You're battling now the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens. The Cincinnati Bengals always have to be in that conversation. Even though I felt like they had a bad year last year, I feel like Cincinnati Bengals is a team you can't look down on because at the end of the day they have Joe Burrow, and I feel like Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. So I feel like if Justin Simmons is wanting to win, he wants a championship. I feel like probably the best team to go to would be Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's my prediction. I'm rocking with Green Bay Packers.
I do feel like with you on that, I would have to select the Green Bay Packers. I think Justin Simmons will end up in Green Bay. All right, so moving on, we have Mike Williams. The three teams that I've seen that were highly interested in Mike Williams were the Arizona Cardinals, New England Patriots, and Indianapolis Colts.
Mike Williams?
Absolutely.
No, I think I want to see him come to Pittsburgh.
You see him coming to Pittsburgh.
He's got a visit with Pittsburgh coming up. He also had a visit with Carolina Panthers.
I did see that.
Um, I would love to see him come to Pittsburgh. I think that's now losing Deontay Johnson. We only have George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin on the roster. Mike Williams would be a huge addition that we would need now. Um, Also with the Panthers, huge addition that they need.
Yeah,
Um, Even though I would like for Panthers to go out and get someone bigger, bigger, a better, bigger name, better player like T. Higgins.
yeah,
But I think Mike Williams is still a very good receiver. I do think there's a possibility he re-signs with the Chargers as well. I think the Chargers released him, and and then they traded Keenan Allen, and now they realize they lost both of their receivers, and that wasn't a
yeah.
good idea. So I definitely see a possibility of him re-signing with the Chargers. But my prediction, I want to say the Steelers, but I'm gonna say the Panthers.
You think he's going with the Panthers?
I think he's going to the
So
Panthers.
I think it depends on what Mike Williams wants, and that's really hard to determine in the NFL. Because obviously neither one of us are in the NFL, so we don't know. Um, Outside looking in, I feel like if I was in the NFL, I want to win a championship. But some people feel different. If they were in the NFL, they want to try to collect as much money as they can. If a Super Bowl comes with it, a Super Bowl comes with it. If it don't, they're set up for life. They're set up for their future generations of their children. So I guess it really depends on what Mike Williams wants. If Mike Williams is wanting money, I think Carolina's overpaying everybody right now because who would want to play in Carolina? So I feel like that if Mike Williams is wanting to have more guaranteed, I feel like he's probably going to get that out of Carolina Panthers. But at the end of the day, I feel like if Mike Williams is wanting to win, I think the options are probably either going to be, I think Indianapolis Colts. I think Indianapolis Colts, out of the teams that I've seen that are interested in, have the highest chance of winning. Are Indianapolis Colts probably going to end up going to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But we've seen, just what Anthony Richardson was capable of doing before he ended up getting hurt last year. So I think paired Anthony Richardson with somebody like Mike Williams, that'll be, a great sight. And I think that's my prediction. I think that's where he's going to end up going.
I think Mike Williams, whatever team gets him, they're going to be ecstatic that they have him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so last but not least, we have Odell Beckham Jr. The two teams, and at this point, Odell he wants a ring, which I believe he did. He did get his ring with the Rams, but he wants another one. He wants to try to go down as a legacy. He wants to act like he was a top wide receiver, which in my opinion, I don't think Odell was ever a top wide receiver aside from his first couple years, and you know it is what it is. But what I have seen is New York Jets or the Kansas City Chiefs. My opinion on this, I think he's going to sign with the Jets because Kansas City Chiefs just signed Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, and I think that they have no need for Odell Beckham Jr.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even have a prediction for Odell because I think wherever Odell goes, he's going to be overpaid.
Yeah,
Um, I think Odell, ever since he left the Giants, he hasn't been that same caliber player.
right.
He was pretty good for the Browns, but never as good as he was for the Giants.
Yeah,
Odell and he injuries have been very detrimental to his career as well. Um, I do think he is a very good veteran receiver. I think he is still a positive impact on whatever receiver room he goes to, and he definitely wants a ring.
yeah,
But he also wants he doesn't want to be on the bench and get a ring. He wants to be on the field helping get that ring.
yeah.
Um,
I would have to agree with you. I think that Odell Beckham is more about Odell Beckham. He doesn't want to get a ring on the sideline with an injury. He wants to be able to go out there and he wants to say he put up 3 or 4 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and he helped them get that ring. So I think that's what Odell is chasing. And me personally, I think he's probably going to end up signing with the Jets. But I do think the only way that the Jets do sign him is if it's going to be a league minimum. With the Aaron Rodgers contract and everybody that they're trying to bring in to help Aaron Rodgers, I don't think you can go out and sign a multi-million-dollar contract for Odell. So I would go ahead and predict that it may not be the exact league minimum, but it's going to be low that if Odell does sign with the Jets.
I could see him signing pretty cheap to go with the Jets.
So, all right, well, we're at the end of the notes for today. We have nothing left on the book, so we'll make this a reoccurring thing. Is there anything that you want to add? Maybe any predictions for the 2024 season? What do you have?
My prediction for the 2024 season. We're going to go with a prediction for the Carolina Panthers.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think at the end of the season, Bryce Young will be finally 100% declared a bust. The Panthers will be looking to move on at the quarterback position.
I mean, I would 100% have to agree with you. Now, I can guarantee you just pissed some people off by saying that. But
I
hey,
definitely did.
but hey, man, it is what it is, and I would have to agree. I think at the end of the season, Bryce Young is going to be officially declared a bust, and this season he will have no excuses. So it is what it is now, unless Bryce Young goes out there and he's putting up 30, 35 points a game, and because of everybody they're letting walk on defense, and I mean if they're losing by an extra 3 to 7 points, I mean I feel like that's not fair to put on Bryce Young, but I do feel like that Bryce Young is not going to be the guy, and we're going to see that this season.
Do you have a prediction you want to?
So
Or
I've been thinking about this, the last couple of days since we last recorded the podcast, and it's been hard, man. But the main thing that has really been coming to my mind, and how much I dislike the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think Kansas City Chiefs are on the way for a three-peat. I don't know if they're
Oh,
going to make the Super Bowl, but I do feel that they are probably going to be back in the Super Bowl at least. I don't know if they're going to win it, but I feel like they're going to make it back. And I feel like the reason I feel like that is, you got Travis Kelsey, you have Marquise Brown, Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, their offense is stacked, and we are now in, like I discussed earlier in the podcast, we're now in the times of where offenses win you championships, and I feel like it's really hard for that AFC to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't
don't
see them
forget
doing
about how that Chiefs defense played last season either.
it. Man, and I'm telling you, it's gonna be very hard, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs are on the way for a potential three-peat. I'm predicting that they make the Super Bowl again.
Oh, okay. I think that's a fair prediction. Fair prediction.
All right, so I mean, this is something that. So before we end it, I would just like to discuss, man, that we have made a X account, we have made a TikTok account, and we have seen tremendous numbers in YouTube over the last week. And I wouldn't even say a week because we're filming this technically Tuesday morning, I guess, because it's kind of late or early in the morning, I should say. And I think when the last one we filmed was Wednesday night, Thursday morning, somewhere around that time frame. So I
Yes.
mean, it hasn't even been a full complete week yet, and we have seen tremendous growth in the channel and all of our social media already. Where I would love to see what other people are thinking. I mean, if there's anything you guys are disagreeing with, or something that you might want to add, or even for us to talk about, please let us know down below, because that's something. Please try to give us more topics. You know what I mean? Like, we would love to hear everybody's feedback, know what everybody else is thinking. So, and you guys have been great. I definitely appreciate all the support over all the accounts over the last couple days. It's been tremendous to see. One of our friends actually told us that probably, what was it, by episode 20 to 25, was that right? So
Yep.
episode 20 to 25, they're going to predict that we have 1,000 subscribers, and the Benchwarmer podcast is going to blow up. I mean, maybe it's just because I have a lot of self doubt. That's probably the insecurities in me. But I mean, if we could have 1,000 subscribers by that time, that would be absolutely wonderful, and I would definitely appreciate every single person that subscribed, and I appreciate everything across all the social media platforms. So I'm gonna make sure to put all of our social medias down low in the YouTube description. That way you can follow us on everything. We've been staying very active on X. We've been staying very active on TikTok, making sure to try to keep things going there. And I think as soon as we try to get a couple more subscribers and get the channel a little bit bigger, I was even discussing with Kayla, we might go to a situation where we might start doing live streams of this That way we can discuss with you guys in real time, and then at the very end we'll just post the VOD on YouTube, so people who wasn't there to see the live stream can go back and watch it. So I just wanted to take the time to really thank everybody, because I didn't expect this. I mean, obviously my the close friends and family know I tried YouTube back in, what was it, 2017, 2018, something like that. Made probably 3 or 4 videos, and I think all of those videos maybe got like 5 to 10 uh, views a piece, and I think I maybe had like 5 subscribers. So I mean, we've already almost doubled that on our YouTube channel, and probably from the time we're recording this, it might be doubled. Now, granted, I mean, doubled in this where we're at right now is probably not really big, but I mean that's a lot for somebody who is, we've only posted one podcast so far. So I think the Benchwarmer podcast is on the come up in 2024 and 2025. You know what I mean? I think this is going to be something that is going to be around for a long time.
We're gonna do our best to try and make sure this succeed, and we're gonna do our best to interact with y'all because we are passionate about football. We love football. Um, don't forget to follow us on X and TikTok, like you mentioned. We are active on both of those. We post early predictions and comments on what goes down on the NFL on X as well as TikTok, and we just post general things, just trying to engage with y'all
Yeah.
and see what other people are thinking, and not just what our opinions are, what other people's opinions are.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I would like to point out is me and Caleb were talking, because we kind of got some nasty comments over the last couple days, which it doesn't affect us. I mean, whenever you're doing stuff like this and you're on social media, you're always going to have those 1 or 2 people. But I did make it a point to Caleb that I at least like to discuss it on this channel. By no means do me and Caleb think that we are experts at doing this. We don't have
No.
inside sources. We've never played in the NFL. The only thing that we've ever done is we played football growing up, and the fact that we have both played football growing up, and the fact that we have a love for football, and we're always on Madden. So if anybody wants the Madden smoke, hit us up and let us know. So
Hey, hey.
so I mean, I'm saying, but by no means do we claim to be experts in this. We're just 2 guys who love football. So I mean, and if you love football just as much as us, this is going to be the right podcast that you want to watch every week.
I
So
said we're not experts, we're not analysts, we're just 2 guys who love football. That's all
absolutely.
we are. 2 guys who
So
love football.
definitely appreciate you guys joining in. We're a little over the hour mark that we intend to set for each one of our episodes, so we're going to go ahead and cut this one short. We're going to upload this Thursday. It's going to be, I think what we're going to end up doing is Thursday mornings now. It's going to be 9 a.m. It's going to be when we air our episodes. Now, obviously, if anything happens between, when we film and when we're uploading the videos, or that's where we're going to be on all of our social media. So make sure you follow us there. So definitely appreciate you, everybody, for, checking in for episode number 2, and make sure you're back next week for episode number 3. Peace out. Love you guys.
Peace out, guys.